H, discussion of solid waste and recycling system changes. Adam's been doing a lot of work on this.
I got the pleasure of going around and doing a couple of trips with our garbage and recycling team, and one of the things I wanted to provide you was tonight is just an update to give you an opportunity to start to give me some feedback on some of the changes that are being recommended out of this event. Some of the things that you'll see in your packet included an update from the event, and then you'll see that there was a practices policy. And what that was basically attempting to do was describe to the individual that would be providing the service how to do some of the more detailed aspects of their job. In particular, one of the things that's being recommended is the creation of a new tag. We refer to it as the blue tag. And what this blue tag would be used is in situations where bags are being left behind, or trash or recycling is being left behind for one of a handful of different reasons, which are included in the policy. A great example of that would be is if I pick up a bag that's full of nothing but aluminum cans, they would actually not end up picking up that bag but on trash day, but they would stamp it with a blue sticker so that the property owner would know why that bag was left on that particular day. That's just an example of some of the things that are included in the practice policy. One of the things also included in your packet was an update to an ordinance, to our solid waste control ordinance. There were a couple of minor modifications that would need to be made pursuant to some of the changes we were looking at making. And all of those changes are addressed in the update form, which you'll see there. What we identified was that there was some low-hanging fruit that we could attempt to start resolving immediately. And then, of course, there were some challenges that would take a little bit longer for us to come before the council and ask for some full recommendations on. The things that they identified as low-hanging fruit were things like, one of the things that was discussed was the park dumpster. We were finding circumstances where the park dumpster was being illegally used. So there's now been a discussion about removing it during the off-season to take away that attractive nuisance, if that's what you'd like to call it. Another thing is of course, we're currently going through with the commercial customers and doing a reevaluation of what the current rates are, and I mean that in a different way than what you might think. Our rates are, of course, based upon wait and time, so one of the things we're doing is reevaluating to make sure that the proper wait and time aspects are being utilized right now for the costing. Of course, a high fruit on the tree is, of course, looking at the rates themselves to see whether or not there's modification that's necessary there. Another couple of items you'll see in here is we moved the library from Friday to Wednesday. The Wednesday route goes right by the library. It made sense to change the route for the purposes of when to have it picked up. We also have a recommendation, which you don't actually see being in the forms today, but that is the changing the day that we pick up trash at the trailer courts. Right now, it would be more prudent to put that on a Tuesday rather than a Wednesday, but there's a little bit more prep work that needs to be done before that would actually need to be implemented. We'd have to contact customers and make necessary changes. Then, of course, the biggest policy is what we are calling the blue sticker approach, which is leaving trash bags that are identified as having some significant recycling in them. Of course, also, one of the things that we identified with situations is where parking in front of trash bins was becoming an issue for us at commercial locations. And we wanted to take steps to make sure that parking in front of bins were prohibited at all times, and that way at least give us some opportunity to obtain them, because we were finding circumstances where we would go to pick up trash. In fact, on the day I went alone on one Monday, we had 3 or 4 circumstances where we went to a commercial customer and there was something obstructing our ability to get to their trash bins. And of course, time is money as far as how much time we spend at that particular location. A couple other things that we noticed was, of course, accessibility to your trash and recycling bins is also a concern, and we just want to re-emphasize that. There were a couple of situations where it could take as much as almost 15 minutes to get organized the right way to actually get to a particular location's trash. And of course, that once again is taking a significant amount of time to pick up one person's trash. Another thing is properly maintenance of the trash bins for commercial customers. At least in two circumstances, there were trash bins that were either cracked down the sides of them or had broken wheels on them. In fact, in one case, you're talking about several broken wheels on one. Well, anytime you are creating that type of scenario, you're creating a safety situation for our haulers. So I just ask you to take a look over the proposed ordinance information, the update from the event, and look over the practice policy so that you can see if there's anything that's addressed there that you have questions about, or if there's anything that you think needs to be added that isn't already included in the policies.
Did you want to mention too, the 7 o'clock in the morning when
Oh, that's true too. One of the things we're also seeing occur, and I witnessed it myself during the routes, is situations where we need to do a better job of educating the consumer that their trash or recycling needs to be out by 7 a.m. I saw several indications where trash wouldn't be there the first time we came by, and it just so happened that the route went by this location more than once, and when we came by the second time, lo and behold, trash was out. And it wasn't necessarily a big issue because the route had multiple turns through that area, but it's just more of an indication that any circumstance could be where, especially if we make changes to the routes, everyone needs to be responsible enough to know they need to have their trash and recycling out by 7 a.m. or there is a risk that it will be left behind.
But that is in the plan to kind of look at it and maybe get it down to 3 days instead of 4 days.
Correct. There's one of the high-hanging fruits on the tree that we've discussed is the idea of doing your trash pickup and your recycling on the same day. But once again, that one's a little bit more than just a low-hanging fruit on the tree. So we're trying to make changes immediately that can have an impact, and then we're looking at the more long-term issues, the larger issues, so that we can solve those as we go to.
Nothing, get the routes down to 3 days or 4 days.
Well, one of the things in particular that was quite interesting to me was that from a savings standpoint, probably the most significant opportunity for savings in trash is recycling. Right now, just to give you an idea, if the city of Sac City was to make a 5% shift in the ratio, and what I mean by ratio is percentage of trash to percentage of recycling in a particular quarter. If we were to make a 5% shift alone, that month over month would be enough to pay for a new truck. So 5% doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it is significant as far as a financial savings to the city, considering that almost 40% of our costs are made up with things associated with weight of what's being going out to the landfill.
That's pretty good. That's heavy.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on that?
under the under Kaizen update, under goals number 6 was consider daily grade card program. Could you kind of discuss
One of the things we have talked about is the importance of not only implementing changes, but maintaining them. A lot of times you'll see programs to improve things, and then 6 months down the road, you're right back where you started. And so what we're looking at is the prospects of some kind of a grading system, something that they fill out on a daily basis, that basically allows them a continuous daily goal to meet. So therefore, you continue to remind yourself to maintain those changes.
Yeah, and I'd like to just make a comment. If we're just talking a 5% shift, to pay for a truck, we really should start, a public education program, or at least look at that, even in the short term, to start.
Actually, we've already done so. Our March newsletter that went out had a page-long explanation of how the importance of getting recycling and not putting hazardous materials into the landfill. And then, of course, I've made some arrangements to speak in a couple of different groups.